Welcome back to the While We're Waiting Hope After Child Loss podcast. I'm Jill Sullivan, your host and one of the co-founders of the While We're Waiting ministry. As you're listening today, our While We're Waiting team is in Palmer, Alaska, preparing for the group of moms and dads we'll be meeting this weekend at Alaska's Harvest Airbnb. And back at the refuge in Hot Springs, Arkansas, some more members of our team are preparing to lead a While We're Waiting weekend for parents touched by suicide. We'd love to serve you at one of our free events one day. For more information or to register, just visit our website at whilewe'rewaiting.org. Today, I'm continuing my conversation with Tricia Patrick. In this episode, we move beyond the events of February 2014 and into the long journey of grief that followed. Tricia shares what those early fog-filled days were like, the scriptures that anchored her, and how God has gently walked her through the complicated layers of suicide loss. We'll also talk about the ministry that grew out of Jeremy's story and the unexpected ways joy has begun to resurface in the years since. If you're in the early days of your loss, still surrounded by fog, I pray this conversation reminds you that you don't have to figure everything out at once. God is patient. He works in chapters, and He carries us close to His heart as our good shepherd. Now let's listen to part 2 of my conversation with Tricia. So as we're recording this episode, we're approaching the 12-year mark since Jeremy went to heaven. But think back, if you can, to those very early days of your grief. What advice would you give to a newly bereaved parent, maybe specifically someone who's lost a child to suicide?
Well, I think this is something you probably hear from most people that are speaking about grief. The early days was a big fog. It was just a fog, a lot of just forgetting everything. I couldn't remember how to do normal processes. I had to start back to work 10 days after he died.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
I couldn't remember how to do certain things on my computer.
Sure.
So, we are in this fog. I had already had the healthy habit, I did my daily devotions, and that did not stop. But somehow I would sit there with my Bible in my lap, and I could not process what it was saying because I just would sit there anyways. But I kept going, and that's what I would say. Just keep on trying, because God will eventually clear the fog. You'll see something that will start to minister to you. And I went back over I'm a big journaler. Well, and also in my Bible, I allow myself to write in my Bible.
Sure.
And so my Bible has a lot of dates on a lot of verses. And at I don't know what year, maybe year 7 or so, I went back through my Bible and I was like, oh my goodness, look at all the verses that God gave me during those first 3 years. So I literally took one day and I just wrote every single one down, and I have it in a notebook, and I wrote the dates so I could have it in sequence. And it was so encouraging to see what God did speak to me in those early days. One of the verses is Psalms 139:16b. All the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be. Job says almost the same thing, that man's days are determined and God has set the limits. They cannot be exceeded. And so for me, the what ifs of, if Jeremy should have lived longer, or so many people say gone too soon or taken too young or whatever, I had complete peace that it was Jeremy's turn. It was Jeremy's time. Yes, Jeremy made a big mistake, but because of things that have gone on in my life and in his, if it's not your time to go, you are not going.
Yeah.
And so I knew that Jeremy, just making one attempt to take his life could easily have gone awry, and God could have righted it or made a miracle happen that it did not work. So I knew that God knew how long Jeremy was supposed to live, and that there was nothing that could change that. And so I had peace. I knew that, there was peace in the timing, that it was God's timing. Didn't like the reason it happened, but I was aware God could have prevented it or made a miracle if it wasn't meant to be. So yeah, for me, the fact that God has a time for us means that there's a birth date and a death date in his book for each of us.
Yeah.
So that should bring some peace to us in our, struggle to understand or try to figure out if it was a mistake. I don't think it
Mm-hmm.
was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah. I found a lot of comfort in that as well. And that's something we often talk about at our retreats. And yeah, I think that's helpful. Thank you for sharing that scripture.
definitely.
Whenever we as women meet new people at
Yeah,
church, at school, social events, whatever, one of the first questions women ask each other is, "Oh, well, how many kids do you have?"
yeah,
Have you
absolutely.
found an answer that feels comfortable to you when you are asked that question?
Yeah, I think in the beginning, it's really hard to answer that question just because you're just still raw and you're just
Yeah,
not sure you would even want to talk about that child being missing out of the picture. But I had 4 children and they're still mine. So when somebody says, "How many children do you have?" I have four. I have
right.
3 girls and 1 boy. If they ask more details, then, I might say, "Yeah, Larissa lives in the Middle East and she's 34. Josie's in Alabama. Jeremy lives in heaven and Ellie's in Tennessee." I mean,
Uh-huh.
then they'll stop and go, "What? Wait, heaven?" I'm
Yeah.
like, "Well, he resides in heaven.
Uh-huh.
He's been there a while. And it'll throw them off. And I think as the years go by, and everyone has a different personality. And I think people need to learn how they ask questions sometimes. And of course, people are like, "How did it happen?" or whatever. And
Yeah.
you just have to take control of the question. You turn it how you want to. You can either answer or not answer. Say, "I'd rather not," or, you know, "That's not something I'm comfortable talking about." And they go, "Oh," because they're not
Right.
used to somebody saying that. But I have been known to give people a little bit of shock sometimes because I feel like you ask the question, I'm going to give it to you sometimes.
Right.
That's
Right.
yeah, that's not necessarily the right thing to do, but sometimes.
Well, if they ask, and sometimes it actually gives you a witnessing opportunity,
Yeah,
when somebody
yeah,
asks a question like that and you do answer it honestly.
mhm,
Sometimes it opens up an opportunity to talk about the Lord in a way that wouldn't be there otherwise.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
When you're ready, oh my goodness, the first few years after Hannah died, that question just completely floored me. I struggled so much to answer it because of the emotion involved. But now I'm able to use that a little bit more in a positive way.
Mhm.
So, how do you feel like your grief going into the 12th year compares to what it was in the first year or the second year?
So yeah, thinking of that, actually for me, it was like the first 2 or 3 years were pretty brutal. Emotionally, it was just a daily struggle to survive, to fight through the tears, feeling raw, vulnerable, emotional. So those few years were really, really hard. Um, but today, I was just telling one of my daughters just a couple weeks ago, I feel like myself again. It's so
Mm,
weird. Just like I had to pinch myself because for some reason out of the blue, I just felt myself being more my cheerful, playful person. Like, so my daughter says, "So
yeah.
your personality's back?" And I'm like, maybe that's it. Maybe it's the personality is finally coming back to the surface.
Yeah.
Um, Instead of just having like this kind of a dark cloud or just this constant awareness. And that does not mean I have forgotten Jeremy or
Right. Of
that I
course
don't have
not.
hard days.
Right. Yeah.
But it's been refreshing to realize that, maybe I'm at the point of, okay, I can see things a little bit differently and I can, be, I don't know, a different focus, maybe a little bit better, I guess. But
Yeah. When you get to that point where you suddenly realize, oh, there's been a change, I'm carrying this differently.
mhm,
That's kind of a big deal.
yeah. Yeah.
Not that we don't go back and forth a lot, but yeah, when you can reach that point where you recognize in yourself that there
Mhm.
has been a little bit of a turn,
Yeah.
that is maybe not as heavy as it was. That's a big thing.
Yes.
I think all of us who are bereaved parents have this very sharp dividing line in our lives, the before and the after. So talk about the before Tricia and the after Tricia. How is she different?
Well, um, obviously I'm still different than I ever was before losing a child because I feel like I'm very, very alert and in tune to other people that are going through something like this. I
Sure.
just remember not being, I had no clue the pain that other, the parents that have lost a child. I mean, I remember being sympathetic, but I don't remember really having any idea the pain they were going through or the long-term support that they might need. So I'm
Yeah.
changed forever in my perspective and my ability to empathize, my ability to really come alongside somebody else. That part of me hopefully will never change. Um,
Right. Yeah.
yeah, and I do. It's specifically towards the topic of a child taking their life. I have a huge aversion to anything, anyone talking about suicide or being flippant about. Oh, just want to, I'll just take my life. And I had this happen a lot because I was working in a high school, and I
Oh,
would
yeah.
take some kids aside and say,
Yeah.
really, that is not the way to talk. And if I would say the reason why it really bothers me, they'd be, oh, I'm sorry. And I'm like, yes, it offends me, but it should offend you too. And it should
Yes.
make you realize how important life is, that we should not talk about it so flippantly. So
Yes.
that
Good
part
for
also
you.
changes
Yeah.
me to affect other people, hopefully in a good way.
Yes. Yeah.
So I'll correct teenagers that are doing that, but something I guess, and this happens in church, and this happens in the movies. This happens for some reason. This topic is out there constantly, and
Yes.
it's very hard to
Mm-hmm.
avoid it. And it can, um, what's it that they say when somebody's posting online and they say that this is one of those things you got be careful. This might a trigger. This is a trigger.
Oh, right. Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
watch out. This, well, they don't tell you that in a movie. You're about to have a trigger happen, and all of a sudden it's
Yes.
in your face, and that is so disturbing to me. Even to this day, it gets me, and it makes me
Right.
a little irritated, or
Sure.
more irate would be a better
Yeah.
word, just
Uh-huh.
because I feel like that's just not fair,
Right.
But yeah,
Yeah. Good for you for educating those kids.
yeah.
That's
Thank
so important.
you.
Suicide is not my story. It's not any part of my story with my daughter yet because I've met so many parents who have lost children to suicide. Oh, I hear those cultural references all the time. And it just, oh, it bothers me on their behalf.
Yes.
So, like you said, it's everywhere in the culture, and it's often those phrases are often used so flippantly.
Mhm.
And yeah, it bothers me. So hopefully somebody might be listening today that might think about that a little bit, think about the
Yeah.
things that they
Yeah.
say. So, what have you learned about God's character through your journey?
Well, thankfully, as I mentioned before, God was already my foundation. He had proven to be my strength and support through so many other difficulties as a child on the
Yeah.
mission field. I was actually in a boarding school as a child. So I
Right.
had learned to depend on the Lord as a child, and then as an adult, very much so. So I had learned to stay connected to him. And I feel like just if I had not had a good foundation prior to this, I would have just dissolved.
Right.
So I am
Hmm.
very thankful that I had that. And this kind of leads me, his character leads me to, I already knew that he loved me, and I knew he was sovereign. That's why I spoke to the fact that I
Yeah.
trusted that if it was Jeremy's time, God was not going to save him. But if it was, God would have saved him if it had been, so I trusted that God was in control and that he had the right plan, right? But for me personally, going through that, that didn't take away my sadness. That did not take away
Right.
devastation,
Of
but I did
course.
run to the Lord for it. And just some of the scriptures that God gave to me during that time. I mean, as I said, I would lay my Bible in my lap, and sometimes for weeks or first few months, it was just foggy, cloudy. My brain wouldn't connect, or I just couldn't process what I was reading. But then as I kept trying, obviously the Psalms is what just kept on reiterating the things that I was feeling were right on the page. So I have a few verses here that talk of those days. In Psalms 88, the lowest pit, the darkest depths, my eyes are dim with grief. My tears have been my food day and night. And that just helped me to feel, someone understands how I feel.
Yes,
And
exactly.
I can admit to the same feelings to the Lord.
Yes.
Yeah. And then I think years prior, I had studied. I think it was John 10 that talks about the Good Shepherd. I had memorized Psalm 23, and then I found in Isaiah 40 where he speaks specifically that God tends his flock like a shepherd. He gathers the lambs into his arms and carries them close to his heart. Psalms 28:9 says, "Be their shepherd and carry them forever." And I just needed that. I remember saying, I can't do this. I just need someone to carry me. And the Lord,
Yeah.
it's like I had to mentally just let him carry me. And I liked the picture of him close to his heart, up close carrying me, that he was gentle with me, that he was going to get me through. One day I was at a Tractor Supply store, and they had these little plastic animals at the register, and I saw a little plastic lamb, and I had to buy it. And then
Oh,
later I
yeah.
went and bought a bunch of them, and I gave them to my other bereaved friends and said, this, and I just kept it on my desk. That was my reminder that I am the lamb and he is my shepherd, and he's
That's
holding
right.
me and carrying me through. So also Psalms 16, 8 and 11 talks of, I have set the Lord always before me. He is at my right hand. In my mind, that means he's constantly with me. I will not be shaken. And so, of course, I did feel very shaky, but
Yes.
trusting God that he was going to hold me firm, and get me through this was definitely what carried me through, for sure.
Yes, absolutely. I love the reminder of Jesus as our good shepherd.
Mhm.
Not just for us, not just holding us, which he does, but he's holding our children,
Oh,
and we
yeah.
can trust him with that. So thank you for that reminder. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
And for sharing those scriptures with us. Very
definitely.
helpful. Thank you. You started a very unique ministry after Jeremy went to heaven. Take a few minutes and just talk about that.
Yeah. So, those of us who have made it past a 1 year mark or 2 year mark,
Right.
that first year is really hard. That 1 year anniversary is
Mm.
really, really, you feel like you're going to live everything all over again. And
Yes.
so I remember the weeks leading up to that just being more distraught, and many nights, many, many tears at night, and not being able to sleep, and just continuing to pray, Lord, help me, what. And one particular night, close to that 1 year anniversary, I was crying, and then I swear I heard the Lord say joy. And I
Mm.
almost laughed at him, like, no, I do not have any joy right now. Thank you.
Right.
And trying to go back to sleep, I hear, share Jeremy's joy. And I was like, oh my goodness, I'm wide awake now. I'm going to get up and write this down. So I
Yeah.
wrote it down, share Jeremy's joy. What had been going on, Jeremy died the day before Valentine's Day. Jeremy, the romantic, Jeremy, the one who was singing in the Valentine concert the very night that he died and didn't get to sing.
Yeah. Wow.
All his friends said he ruined Valentine's Day for them forever.
Mm. Mm.
That crushed me
Hmm.
because Jeremy was loved. Jeremy loved everyone.
Yeah.
We could not let Valentine's Day die because of him. But what to do? And so when God gave me that charge to share Jeremy's joy, it was like, okay, okay. I didn't love Valentine's Day coming up. It was going to be a harsh reminder of what happened to us on that night before. But when we had our little get together with friends and family that 1 year anniversary, we invited everyone over, and I said, in the back room, we have some markers and paper. Just go make yourselves a Valentine card and give it to somebody in memory of Jeremy. And I thought, okay, well, we did that, and we're going to do something. One of my daughters, my middle daughter Josie, we said we need to find an orphanage or something we can take something to for Jeremy. This will be, well, they don't have orphanages around here nowadays,
Right.
really.
Sure.
But in Tennessee, they had the Tennessee Children's Home, and we looked it up, and I made a contact with the director. And that first year we took them candy and cards, and the director said, well, would you be willing to tell Jeremy's story? And I'm like, sure. And I did, but the problem was there was 3 dorms, and he had me go to all 3 dorms, and I had to
Oh,
repeat
wow.
that story 3 times one
3 times. Yeah.
afternoon. And I thought I was going to die. The next year we went back, and I was brave enough to say, could we please get them all together in one
Right.
location so
Sure. At one
I could say
time.
it once.
Mm-hmm.
And we have been back to that place 10 times.
Wow.
And it is the biggest blessing every time we go. It's not I mean, they call it a children's home. It should be called a teenage boys home.
Oh,
It's
wow.
ages 15 to 18. So
Mm.
exactly the age that Jeremy
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
And those boys, when we tell Jeremy's story, and we talk about how to have hope in the Lord, and how to trust the Lord, and how to give him your problems, and how to tell someone when you're hurting. Don't keep it inside. Don't hide it. Don't you be the only person that can't talk to somebody else. You're the one helping everyone else, but you can't let anyone help
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
These boys start opening up, and they start asking questions. And then when we leave, the dorm parents say they have devotions, and these boys just start opening up and sharing their
Mm.
hearts, telling stories that they never would have otherwise. So they tell us, please come back. Please come back. We love it when you come. So
Sure.
that's been a huge blessing to us. And every year that I've gone, I try to take one of Jeremy's friends to go with us and share their side of the story.
Yeah.
And I feel like it gives them a piece of healing in the
Mm.
process, because a lot of them are still stuck back in 2014,
Mm-hmm.
because they never did go to counseling. They never did process this. And it helps them to see what God's doing with Jeremy's story and the blessing that it can be. I think last year there's this song that came out that says, you bring blessings out of a tragedy. And
Yeah.
that song it really rings true for me. Just like I'm telling you that this year, I feel like I'm finally seeing the real Tricia coming back, the real personality. About 7 years ago, through this. Okay, I'm jumping ahead of myself. I'm jumping ahead of myself. So as we were making cards and giving them out to like places like the boys' home, we also added in a nursing home here, a veterans home there, another nursing home, another children's home. And every year, people in the community, people knew Jeremy all over that town. So there was multiple churches and youth groups and schools, and they helped us make cards, and they donated candy. And so it just kept getting bigger every year.
Yeah. It's
So
awesome.
about 2 years ago, we were up to like 15 or 16 different facilities that we were taking cards to. Anyways, but at one point, I mean, people were bringing stuff to my house all through January and February. They bring me candy and cards, and my front door is like this drop-off point. And every time I open my door, it just gave me so much joy.
Yes. I
I
love that.
loved seeing it, and I saw how God used it. I mean, yes, I love giving cards to people in the nursing home and the veterans home and the children's home, but what I saw God do in the lives of the volunteers that helped me, I was like, I didn't know they were going to have so much joy. That God, especially in 2020 and 2021, that was when we really saw it, because people were needing to do something
Yes.
for others. They had been so stuck in their homes and self, inward,
Yeah. Yeah.
focus. It
Right.
gave them the opportunity to be able to share and give. And it just brought me so much joy. And I had to pinch myself because I couldn't believe that something so heartbreaking could bring joy.
Yeah.
So God has been doing this, and now we're in a new town and we're in a new state, and I have Jeremy's Joy stuff all around me. I have cards, and we have basically a factory going on around here, and
Yeah.
getting an opportunity to share it with new people that never knew Jeremy, but it still somehow brings joy to them too, and encourages them and helps them in their journey. So, I guess as we're this podcast is specifically to the parent who has lost a child. You don't have to have lost a child to suicide. Losing a child is just traumatic, no matter what.
Right.
Um, I think just keep your eyes open to what God wants to do with your story, whether you're supposed to open and share it with somebody else, or if you can't do that right away, just do a little something to bless somebody else.
Mm.
And I like to do stuff and say it's in memory or honor of Jeremy, because then his life is worth a little, like, it brings more meaning to my day of, like, he's gone, but he's not gone, if you know what I mean. I remember one day just I was leaving Walmart, I think. I went past a man, and he had, like, I don't know what he was looking down, and his shoes were destroyed. I don't know why. They were just like he'd walked like a million miles, and his shoes were just awful.
Yeah.
And I went past him, and my head said, Jeremy would not let this man be like that. You
Yeah.
need to give him money for shoes.
Right.
And I did. I turned around, and I gave him $20 or whatever. And I said, my son would not want you to go without shoes. And
Yeah.
I think that helps your heart, a little bit, because you can do a little something that, they would have done too. But it
Hmm.
gives it a little bit more meaning when you realize, okay, I didn't just do that out of kindness of my heart. I was thinking of my child who would want this to happen.
That's
So
right.
that's very healing too.
Yeah. We've heard about lots of different ministries that people have started in memory of their children and different activities that they do. But this is a new one for me, giving out Valentine cards to all of these different places. And I love it. I think it's just so clever and so encouraging. And I love that what you said about how you brought one of Jeremy's friends with you to talk to those boys in particular at that youth home, because that way they got to see the impact that a decision that they might make would have on their friend group.
Yes.
Because I'm sure Jeremy's friends were devastated when that happened.
Yes.
And that's something that's going to stick with a young man, I think, that he'll think about. So your work is making a difference. I'm sure it is. And it's a beautiful way to honor Jeremy as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, we've been visiting for quite a while.
Mhm.
There is one last question that I always like to ask, and that is whether or not music has been an important part of your journey. And if so, what is on your playlist?
Well, so for our family, I think I mentioned in the hospital, we went immediately to worship music. Um,
Yes.
we were worshiping 24/7 around Jeremy's hospital bed, and then that feeling of the worship went into the funeral. We had so many worship songs, and I think that helped people realize we were not going to stay down in the dumps. We were going to continue to praise the Lord regardless of what was happening.
Yeah.
And that's a choice. And then I think it's harder as the days go on to keep
Hmm.
that focus when you are
Right.
more overwhelmed in your feelings. So I think there's that choice. And I remember I did keep on, I think it was, K Love or Way FM or something. I did keep the radio on. And I do remember God bringing just the right song at just the right time so many times.
Yes.
And there was some songs I remember. Jason Gray did a song that was not a worship song. It was, I'm down and I am so low, and talking
Yeah.
about, it was Not Right Now. And it was like, sometimes we need to let people know I can't handle that right now. And it's okay to be a bit overwhelmed, and let people know no more, as I would say in
Right.
Spanish, no más, no más.
Mhm.
But
Yes.
I think those songs, I mean, if I went to Jeremy's playlist, I've done that a few times, but that's
Hmm.
real hard. I usually
Oh,
do
sure.
a lot of my crying if I do that.
Yes. Uh-huh.
There's mostly, the songs that I get my most edification is the Christian songs that I can find on Christian radio.
Right.
For me,
Right.
that's, been more
Hmm.
beneficial.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have a specific song.
Hmm.
I don't think that's been what's really, the scripture probably is more for me. I do
Right.
like
Right.
songs, but yeah, I think that what has helped me the most has been the scriptures.
Yeah. Well, and that's, I mean, that's from the Word of
And
God. That's better than listening to
those
music
songs that
anyway.
have the scripture in it are great.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
exactly.
It's just, yeah,
Exactly.
right.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you for that.
Mhm.
All right. Well, is there anything else you'd like to share before we wrap up?
No, I appreciate the opportunity to share. It's been, God has, like I said, different chapters in our life, and I'm in a different kind of chapter right now, and I'm so
Yeah.
thankful to be able to share, be able to feel not so overwhelmed that I can now talk about all of this. This
Right.
is this
Yes.
is the fact that I could talk through all of this is a proof of healing that
Right.
God's done, so
Yep.
that now I can be able to share with someone else that might be at the beginning stages, and maybe feeling like, can we even make it to year 2 or year 3? But yes,
Right.
keep on, stay with the Lord, stay in His Word, Christian music, and yeah, I would definitely listen to the podcasts that you have and other Christians have, because
Hmm.
people are surviving this and finding new life and hope, and they can get through this. So I appreciate you giving me the chance to share
Yeah.
my side of my story.
Your story.
Yeah,
Oh, well, thank you so much for being willing to share and just for your words of encouragement. Thank you.
absolutely.
As we close this conversation with Tricia, I'm so grateful for the steady hope woven throughout her story. Her grief didn't disappear, but over time, it changed. The fog began to lift. The scriptures that once felt hard to process became anchors again. And slowly, she began to recognize joy resurfacing, not because she forgot Jeremy, but because God has been faithfully carrying her. I love the image she shared of Jesus as our good shepherd, holding us close to his heart, not only holding us, but holding our children. That is a truth we can rest in. If you're in the early days of grief, especially after suicide loss, please remember you don't have to face every layer at once. God works in chapters. He is patient, gentle, and near. If this conversation has been meaningful to you, I'd love for you to share it with another parent who may need encouragement today. You can also help others find the podcast by leaving a rating or a review wherever you listen. It really does make a difference. And if you'd like to learn more about the While We're Waiting ministry, visit whilewe'rewaiting.org for information about our retreats, our support groups, and our other resources for grieving parents. I love meeting listeners at While We're Waiting events. Thank you for listening and for walking this journey with me while we're waiting.